Okay then, so we've seen how to store different data or values in variables. We saw that in the last video, but at the minute all of those different values were just numbers. We did things like an age, a year, or points, or a score. They were all numbers, right? And that is just one data type in JavaScript. Now in JavaScript we work with many different data types. There's 7 in total. They're all listed here and they all have their own unique properties and the things that they can do. So we're going to have a quick run through of all of them now, but as we go into the course we'll be looking at each one in much more detail and using them all as we go through them. So then first of all, numbers. We've seen them in action already. Things like 1, 2, 3, 100 or 3.14, even decimals like this. They are all of the number type. The next one right here, this is a string, and strings are basically a series of characters in single or double quotes, like a sentence or some kind of email like this, okay? The next one, booleans over here. They are a special logical true or false value, not in quotes. They're not strings, and we use these for evaluating conditions. Now this next one, null over here, this is a way that we can explicitly say that a variable has no value. So we could create a variable, but set it equal to null to say that that variable doesn't have a real value yet. Okay, now it's closely related to undefined here, but the difference is undefined is a type that's given to variables automatically by the browser that have not yet been defined. So these are both empty values, but this one right here, null, we explicitly set to a variable. This one is automatically given to variables when they're not yet defined. Does that make sense? Okay, so the next type, this object thing right here, these are more complex data structures which can have multiple different properties and functions, meaning they can perform various different things. Now, a lot of JavaScript is based around using objects, and there are many different object types or types of objects built into the language which we can use out of the box. There's a whole subset of built-in object types like arrays, dates, object literals. In fact, you might hear the saying everything in JavaScript is an object, which is a huge simplification, but it stems from a source of truth. But don't worry about that now. There will be a whole chapter on objects later on in the course, and we will look at all the different types of objects we can use in JavaScript as well. Things like arrays and dates and object literals, okay? And finally, symbols. They are a new addition to the JavaScript language, which are closely linked to objects too, so we're going to discuss them more later in the course rather than now. So, for the rest of this chapter, we're going to be looking at these different types of data. Strings, numbers, null, undefined, and booleans. We'll also have a quick look at arrays, which fall under the object type down here. It's a type of object with its own unique properties, but we use them all the time in JavaScript, and they're quite simple to learn, which is why I'm covering them in this chapter. Now, a variable, which we've already seen, can hold any data type, be it a string, a number, null, boolean, an object, etc. We don't have to explicitly say what type of variable it will store or what type of data it will store. And we can override a variable with a different type too, meaning if we make a variable and store a string in it to begin with, we can override it later on if we use the let keyword, that is, with a number. Okay, so we can change the type of variables. And for that reason, JavaScript is known as a loosely typed language, in contrast to a strongly typed language like Ruby or Python. Now, I don't want you to feel overwhelmed with all the different types or think you have to remember them all. Don't focus on that, because the more you code with JavaScript, it's going to come naturally to you over time. And we're going to be referring back to this type chart anyway throughout the course to reinforce your understanding of them. The last thing I want to do is scare you off, so as long as we have that idea of types simmering in the background, that is more than good enough for now.